Hello, everyone, and welcome to Plan Your Dance Year. Oh, I'm so excited to be in this space with you guys. Thank you for joining me. My name is Tessa Cunningham, if we've never met before. Now, normally, I'm a strategic planner. I set goals, I break down the steps to achieve them, and I feel happiest and most confident when I feel prepared. Now, last year I felt a little bit chaotic in my with my business and my dance life. I felt constantly behind or uncomfortably just in time. And as a result, missing opportunities or performing just good enough instead of the excellence that I strive for. So, looking ahead to this year, I have been wanting to regain control over my schedule and my habits and planning ahead. And from what I hear from students and peers, many feel the same. So I decided to share my process so we can do this together. Yeah. So I'm really excited to see many of you joining me today. We have actually several hundred that decided to take advantage of this free opportunity, and it's totally fine if you ever your screen's off. That's totally fine. But I want to set a couple of precedents here. First of all, it's if you have a question or a comment or a question in the chat, would you please preface it with 3 question marks so it really stands out so I can tell where there's a question. Otherwise, feel free to use the chat freely. I'm used to students really being very active in the chat. So feel free, we'll have a little commentary here. And let's see, I'm going to be giving you access to a document that we're going to be using as a workbook in a second. I just want to make sure that everybody is organized here. So you're going to want to be taking notes, but I'm going to be giving you a workbook to work in that actually will help you take those notes. So I suggest that you plan and have like a little bit of a scrap paper or whatever a note-taking device is on the side. But then what you're going to do is make a copy of this workbook yourself so you can edit it. So let's see here. Now, I'm going to be typing in a chat in just a moment, but just for right now, if you wouldn't mind, please typing in the chat. Tell me where you're from. Tell me like what, I just want to see like how many people are from what area and where you're calling in from. Just kind of like nice to know. I know it's kind of I tried to keep a time zone that was relatively convenient for most people. Thank you. Now, we're all adults here, so I expect many of you have already got your own systems in place for your own life organization. Whether or not they're effective for you or not is a different story. That's up to you. But just as in your dance progress, it's important to always keep seeking to reevaluate, refine, and upgrade your systems. Now, I'm not suggesting that I can provide an optimal budgeting or calendar system for you, but what I can do is coach and guide you to be honest with yourself about what you really want and about what is and isn't working as you try to pursue it. That's my goal. So here's my agenda for the workshop. Now keep in mind that you'll likely need to spend more time after this workshop reflecting and brainstorming and planning. So this hour is only really intended to provide a framework and to get the ball rolling, okay? So first of all, we're going to be reflecting on last year. Yeah. Then we're going to be reassessing your goals. And then based on these, we'll be prioritizing which events and activities to add or subtract from your annual calendar. And then we're going to design a balanced weekly schedule that is sustainable for your energy and your budget. Nice. Okay, so I'm just looking in the chat here to see where y'all are coming from. Okay, we have Montreal, France, the Netherlands, Virginia, North Carolina, Sweden, Calgary, Kansas, Bay Area. Oh, Henrik says this is a perfectly planned workshop in the dinner break at Budapest. Yes, of course. I did that on purpose. Just kidding. Awesome. I'm really glad that you're prioritizing that in the middle of an event. That's awesome. So all over the world here, this is awesome. And let me just type in the chat, first of all. Actually, no, I want to keep you guys focused for a second. So I'm not going to give you that workbook just yet. Let's have a conversation first about reflection and intentions, right? So remember, dance is a lifelong hobby like fitness. Like it's a lifelong endeavor. The goal is to find things that you enjoy that are sustainable and pursue a variety of experiences as they inspire you. But there's no race, and this is a culture of abundance. So you have lots of time to explore and experiment and adjust your journey to find what gives you the most joy. So let's actually reflect on last year. In order to do that, now is the time to actually try this workbook. So what I'd like you to do is I'm going to show you on the screen how I'm going to do this. There's the link in the chat to the where you can find the workbook. And what I'd like you to do is open the link, and we're going to make a copy of it ourselves so that we can do it. You can make your own copy and then edit it. So yeah, I see a lot of you are doing that already. I'm just going to walk you through it just in case anyone's not familiar with that process. So I'm going to open it up. So here is what you see when you open that link. What you're going to do is go over to File, click Make a Copy. And then you're going to make your own copy here, and you can store it wherever you like. Okay, so you're going to choose a file to store. Then open up that version, and you're going to be editing that version. You can't edit mine. That's on purpose. Okay. Awesome. So the very beginning of that document, here we go. Very beginning of that document is reflecting on last year. So let's turn to that first page where it has green, red, green. Let's look at the very first one. I'd like you to reflect on some of your positive, memorable moments from 2026. Sorry, from 2025. You can change that date there. Sorry about that. From 2025. So like it could be anything. It doesn't matter what it is, and it doesn't matter if you can't really think about it right now because you're focusing on me. That's fine. What I'm doing is walking you through a process. Now, I fully expect that you'll be reflecting on this later after this workshop is over. But right now, as you're thinking, maybe jot down some things that come to mind really quickly. Your favorite event, a goal that you achieved, special social dance that happened. Maybe that one cigarette dance that you had that was amazing, right? Or maybe like a breakthrough moment, or stepping out of your comfort zone and trying something new. Okay. And I want you to take a moment and just jot down bullet point notes really quickly of anything that comes to mind. You can always come back and fill in more of these later. And there's no perfect amount or no expectations about this being the comprehensive list. Just a few things to kind of trigger some brainstorming. Next, let's go into thinking about what are some of the challenging moments that you had in your dance journey this year. So a couple of ideas were like plateaus, right? Injuries, obviously burnout, stress, and it could be stress for any reason. Doesn't matter why. It doesn't necessarily have to do with dancing, but it might have affected your dancing. Fears to do with dancing, maybe feeling stuck in your dance. Go ahead. And now you don't have to pick from that list. I just gave you a couple of ideas to get you started, but go ahead and use your own words and make bullet points on your own document. Now, don't forget, like you can just close this template if you want to and just keep writing on your own document. That's fine. Now we're just thinking about the big things. Okay, we're just taking stock, taking inventory. And from time to time, I'm going to pause so you have a chance to just think and write. Okay. Now, of course, from any adversity, if we're smart about it, if we're wise about it, we take a lesson from it. So what did 2025 of dancing, what did this year of dancing teach you about yourself? Maybe you learned something about yourself, about how you prefer to travel, how you handle mistakes, what kind of roommates you're going to have going forward, how you learn best for dance, how you connect with other people emotionally, mentally, not physically for dance, your strengths, your preferences. Okay. And I'm not talking about a total inventory of how you do these things. What I mean is, what did you learn newly last year that you didn't know before? And it's okay if you didn't learn something like that many things about yourself. It might be fewer lessons that were more potent. That's totally fine. Or maybe just some lighthearted things that come to mind right now because you're not really in a deep introspective space yet. We can always come back to that later. That's okay. All right. So now what we're going to do is kind of reassess your goals. And in order to do that, I want to share with you an article series. I did send you the first version of it. Just wanted to show you real quick. I sent you in your preparation email for this article here. What do you want? Right, from the website. And this is kind of a really great thing to review at the beginning of any year for the purpose of reassessing your goals, because they're going to change from year to year. You grow as a dancer, you grow as a human. And so what worked for you 5 years ago isn't necessarily the same thing that motivates you or works for you now. So if you haven't read this article already, I'm going to make sure that I include all of these links to all of these resources in the show notes that I'm going to be providing for you with the recording of this workshop and an email afterwards. Don't worry. But I just wanted to reference that here because this is actually part of a 4-part series. You can see here, there's 4 different main categories of what motivates dancers. And usually you pick from like a diet of them, like you pick a little bit from this one, a little bit from that one. It's not just one that you have to choose and identify with. But these are part of a longer series on the blog page, swingliteracy.com. You can see here lots of articles for dancers, but the ones that I'm looking for here is see, what do you want? Social, skills, competition, and community. So you can see all these articles are there waiting for you. And if you follow the series, then you'll get a chance to assess all of those. So right now, what I'd like you to do is on your document is think about some setting some intentions for last year. So rather than just reflecting on what 2025 was like, let's actually reflect on what you're hoping for 2020. What do you call it? From 2026. So moving on to the next page there, I can see that I've actually called it a WCS journal, a West Coast Swing journal. So keep going past the reflections part on last year into the West Coast Swing Journal, and you'll see setting some intentions first. So right now, I invite you to consider, just the same way as we did before with your own words, bullet points, set some intentions. What habits or thought patterns do you want to leave behind in your dancing? So in other words, you're like, that's it. A little bit of tough love. I got to stop doing this stuff. It's not serving me. Right? Now, I just gave you in gray, those are my examples. Those are just some examples. They're not necessarily mine. There's some that I've heard before from students. Some of them might be mine, but they're just some ideas to get you started. Yeah. Go ahead and do some quick notes right now of habits that you're just like, you know what? This is not serving me. I'm over it. I need to ditch this. I need to get rid of it. Again, make sure in the chat if you have any questions that you type 3 question marks. And feel free, if you'd like to comment an example of one of the things that you're writing down for any of these. Feel free to share if you like. All right, so next, you can see the orange one there. What parts of your dancing journey do you want to keep and protect? Now, I left that really vague on purpose because it could be really open-ended. We're just taking stock of what you want to keep in your life. Okay, so maybe you've been improving your secondary role and you're liking that. You want to keep more of that. Maybe you just started discovering the difference it makes to really be present with each partner. So you want to make sure you're keeping that and elaborating or growing that aspect of your dance. Or even just the general concept of staying curious, being curious about the dance, as opposed to being judgmental or closed-minded. Or maybe being proactive in inviting partners because you had been shy to do that before, but you recently started trying it and it's really working for you. You want to keep that in your life. I at least suggest fixed mindset to get rid of, as well as eating out for every meal. Aha! Great suggestions. Good job. Now, keep in mind, this particular set of journal or reflections is about West Coast swing. Now, if you want to use this to extrapolate into the rest of your life, feel free. But I'm going to stay West Coast swing focused. Now, it's possible that eating out every meal on your way to dancing is a thing that you want to get rid of. I know that feeling. So, meal planning, yeah, frame it in a positive instead of a negative. Nice. Okay. So then what new practices or approaches do you want to bring into your dancing next year? For example, meal planning, like planning in advance so that you have a grab and go meal to take to your dance class and you're not tempted to go out eating out every time, right? But let's think about more dance focused, right? So more intentional practice and deeper learning, or maybe, hey, training West Coast swing smarter. And maybe starting competing. Depends on where you are in your journey. Now, training ugly, what I mean by that, if you've never been exposed to swing literacy things before, what I mean by training ugly is the concept of letting yourself experiment and be messy in your experimentation and not have that perfectionist mindset of needing to get it perfect in the first 5 tries that you do something. Skills take time to build. In order to build something, you have to like be willing to have the scientific process and try things that aren't going to work necessarily perfectly the first time. So that's what I mean by training ugly. And of course, seeking out more feedback. Nice. Okay. Now let's, or Sarah's saying, want to leave behind focusing on comp level instead of dance skills. A lot of progress last year, so I want to continue that. I want to bring in the fun and playfulness of social dancing onto the comp floor. Nice. Great. Awesome. Okay, Roland's saying, what do the individual points in the journal have to do with the selection of events? Oh, we're getting there. Trust me, it's a process. Okay, now let's take those intentions and let's move them forward into creating a dance journal. And I want to explain what I mean by this. I realized that I was really craving in my dance life someone to reflect with, somewhere, someplace to like process what I was experiencing, what I was noticing, the observations I was making on a regular basis and wherever I was in the world. And I found that it was kind of intermittent, and I felt like I needed some place to store all those things. So I decided that this year I'm going to be creating, I know this is kind of random, but a dance journal. And I'm going to be using it for writing down things that I notice in classes, breakthroughs I made with students, things that I'm loving or appreciating, or memorable things that happened. So, and then helping to process those so that I can either remember them, store them, or make action items out of them. So this dance journal here is something that I'm doing that I thought a lot of you might take some value from. Now, this is a template. I've given you example there in the grayed out section of the whatchamacallit, the moments and lessons and action items that I'm taking out of these things. Now, the goal there is not to talk about or not to think about techniques and things that you learned in class. It's not about techniques and advice that you've gotten, okay? It's only about your life experiences. So, for example, I played a game of dancing in the same spot on the floor for 30 minutes, and I danced with whoever was nearby, regardless of their level, and I had an amazing time. The lesson I took from that is it felt more relaxing to not have to walk around the floor and try to be selective. It felt empowering to figure out how to elevate every partner. I love that game. And the other lesson I took was I couldn't figure out how to cope with some followers who walk forward early. So the lesson that I'm taking is I need to try to learn more about this and add this to my list of questions to ask in my private lesson. Now, this is directly quoted from a student of a private lesson I was giving. So this was their experience, and I wanted to share that with you as an example. Okay. Thank you to those of you who are taking care of each other in the chat and reposting the link to the workbook. That's great. Thank you. Awesome. So there's nothing to do here. All I wanted to do was explain how you can use this dance journal if you'd like to, because this is something that's been working for me, and just so that you have some instructions on how to do that. All right. So now let's come back to me for a second. We can you don't need to worry about the next page in the workbook for just for a moment. So now let's decide on your budget. Now your budget is for the year is going to be depending on your own resources that you can allocate to dance and how much you actually care about it. You could have lots of resources, but dancing only takes a very small percentage of your life and you have higher priorities. Or you could have, it's very, very important in your life and you have limited resources. So it's going to fluctuate. I'm just going to give you some guidelines of how you can kind of think about these things. So first of all, right now, action item. I'd like you to make an accounting appointment with yourself, at least an hour. Not right now. What I'd like you to do is look in your calendar, look ahead, and this week, set yourself an appointment. To have total privacy and quiet and allocate that time to do accounting for yourself. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to review last year's numbers. You're going to decide on your cash flow and maybe like how your income gets allocated. That's what I mean by cash flow. Okay. And maybe that involves automating some transfers into a separate bank account for dance. Yeah. Oh, wait, this is kind of a breakthrough for some people. You might have been taking your dance resources from your actual living expenses bank account. I don't recommend it. I recommend creating a separate bank account, your dance fund. So that way it's not accidentally eating into your life expenses like rent, things like that, right? And it's also much easier to see if you can afford things, which will help you make decisions. So if you haven't already, make an action item to create a separate bank account. And then it's possible that you might want to decide to automate some savings, like automatic savings, into by transferring money into that account on a regular basis. That's up to you. And also, you're going to be in this appointment with yourself sometime this week. You're going to be implementing some of those ways that you can save money. For example, signing up for loyalty programs or volunteering at certain places so you can afford to exchange your work for dance things that you would otherwise have to pay for, or ways that you can get discounts on things, right? So this is what you're going to be brainstorming during your accounting appointment with yourself. Now, if you're wondering, like, okay, well, I could use a little bit of guidance on that too. What I wanted to show you is that there's actually another article in there it is, in the website that is literally aimed at this. It's called Budgeting for Dance. Check it out right there, right next to the What Do You Want series. So this is something that you can read during that appointment with yourself, or you can read in preparation for that appointment. Nice. Don't worry, I'm going to be sending you all of these links later. Nice. Okay. So now that you have an idea or a plan on when you're going to sit down with yourself and organize all your finances to make decisions, or to basically get organized so that you have a clear picture of what you can and can't afford. That's the point, right? And now let's move on to actually planning your year. So in order to do that, we're going to go back to your document, your workbook, and look at your 2026 event calendar. Yeah. Now on the event calendar, I'm just going to screen share so everybody can see this here. This is where I'm at. So on your event calendar, we have 3 different categories there. Let's look at one at a time. Obviously, you can see down below, you've got all the months and the weekends that are listed there. So this event calendar is just for decision making. You're not committing to anything. And in the first column, we're going to put in down your life events. So things like birthdays, anniversaries, vacations, work-related trips that you already know about. I mean, some of you might be already filling this out already because it's really easy, because a lot of times you don't even have to look it up. So go ahead and type those in right now as we're talking. But the next column is the first priority dance event. So I want to talk to you about what that means. So when I'm thinking about first priority things, we're going to be looking at events that either you help organize, obviously these should come first, and then local weekend dance events that you should be supporting. Those are high priority. Make sure that you're giving those a chance to have a bookmark in your calendar first. Next, bucket list events. Now, what do I mean by that? Things that you've been wanting to do for a long time. I want to give you an example about that one. And that's, if you scroll down, I've actually started putting some examples in here. So you can see down May 15 to 17. Canadian Swing Championships. That's not only an event I help organize, but also this is a bucket list for many swing dancers. I would consider this like a pilgrimage that every swing dancer should attend at some point in their career, because it's such a mecca of West Coast swing, or sorry, of swing dancing in general. It's a crossover swing event, 5 different types of swing, Lindy Hop, West Coast swing, Balboa, blues, boogie woogie. And it's the kind of thing where you can have everything. It's just like completely consuming epic party event that celebrates all forms of swing, as well as crossover. Like, it's one of the best crossover experiences I've ever seen. So I would consider that on my bucket list, and I think you should too. So going back to your first priority dance events, put in events where you can perform your routine if you have one. So maybe there's only certain events that offer a Pro-Am division, so you could do your Pro-Am routine at. Those would be your top priority events. Or same thing with Rising Star. Or NASD, obviously, if you're competing on the NASD circuit. You'd also put in some special trainings, such as online or in person. I'll give you an example. What I mean by that is the free 7-day challenge that we often do for swing literacy. For example, the micromusicality challenge, the elasticity challenge, the footwork agility challenge. Those are all things that usually last about a week. And you want to put them in your calendar so that you can see them coming, so you can kind of arrange your schedule to be able to prioritize that during that week, even though it's online, even though it has nothing to do with traveling or booking something. You want it to be on your radar so you can take advantage of it and not miss it. Same thing with the 8-week boot camp. You don't need to travel for that because that's an online thing, but you want to make sure that you kind of plan for that in your year so that you can know what to expect in terms of your own capacity and workload and energy levels around that time, because it's such a valuable investment that it's worth it. It's to be on your first priority list. Now, I've also kind of put things that are anything that lasts longer than a weekend. I put it in the blue section of the month. That's why I've put this challenge in the blue section, because it'll last a whole week long as opposed to one weekend. And also, I've also put projects in here that'll take longer than a week to do. So just so that you have an idea of like what you can expect to be busy with during that month. So you can go ahead and delete these if they don't apply to you. I was just giving you a couple of examples. Yeah. And there's, of course, my birthday down in August. And this is a local event that I'm involved in, that I organize. So I just wanted to give you an idea of what to do here. Now, make sure when you do write in your events, you're going to include the registration date for them so that you don't miss out on the registration window and then the event sells out because you weren't paying attention, because you didn't have that written down in the first place. So when you figure out which ones are your highest priority events, also write down the deadline or the registration open date so that you can get on top of it and make sure it doesn't sell out. All right. Now that you've had a chance to actually write down your first priority dance events, now let's go to the lower priority ones. Now, these aren't like worse events. They have nothing to do with the quality of the event. It's just that compared to your first priority events, now these ones deserve some attention. So these ones are maybe these are optional. If you don't go to these events, it's not that big a deal. Or backups, like if I can't make it, or if this event sells out, I'm going to go to this other event instead. Some nice to have events like, oh, it would be great if I could afford it, or if I could get the time off, I'll try and make it to that event. So in other words, these are events that either they don't have much novelty to them, so they don't have that added value for you, or you don't have any loyalty to them. Like no one expects you to be there. There's no obligation for you to be there. You won't feel guilty if you don't show up. Okay. So we're going to stop at this point. We're going to come back to more of this calendar in a second. But for right now, what we're going to do is switch to planning our week. So I'll take a moment for you guys to finish wrapping up what you were just typing in. And don't forget, you're going to come back to this in a minute or later anyway. And in the meantime, we're going to scroll down and get to your monthly schedule. All right. So what I'd like you to do is think about, what does your week currently look like? You can see there's some activities to include on this monthly schedule. I've written in gray my approximate weekly schedule. Now, this is a whole month that you're looking at here. It doesn't always have 5 weeks, so I'm just kind of like estimating. But you can see that I've got weekends at the end here, so they stay together with your events. And you can see that I've got sort of some just bullet pointed what happens on each one. So I've got things like a local social dance. I've got some classes that I take on a regular basis. I've got when I'm available for private lessons, would tend to get booked up. And then, of course, when my online coaching calls are, so that I'm using this to plot out what my weekly schedule looks like so I can see balance. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for balance in my week. Which days are way too busy? Where can I spread things out to? How many hours am I spending on dance here? Or is this too much physicality in a row and I need to give my body time to rest? That's what we're looking at doing here. Now, there's an empty one down below, so you can go ahead and delete mine or use mine as an example and fill in your own. So right now, what I'd like you to do is take a moment and just visualize the current state of your week. What does it actually look like? Now, while you're doing that, I want to talk about those activities that are in that list. So you've got things like the social dancing, obviously, weekly classes, obviously, private lessons. Some of you might not be doing private lessons every week, but maybe like once a month. So, and it's okay if you don't have a specific date for those things. Just put it in anywhere. Put it in a likely spot, because what we're trying to do is approximate to show balance. So if you didn't take your private lesson this month because of holidays, no problem. Keep putting it in there, because this is basically creating a template for your weekly schedule, your monthly schedule. You also want to write in things like group practices, group practica. What's that you say? You don't do group practica yet? Oh, well, you guessed it. I have an article for that. So this is something that I'm also going to be sharing in the resources with you, is if you haven't already started joining or started organizing one, here's something that you might want to consider adding to your weekly diet, your West Coast Swing diet. It is so such a potent way to connect your personal practice with your social dancing. And it's something that I recommend for every one of our swing literacy students. Okay. You also want to write down when you're volunteering or when you're hosting an event. And when you're teaching or maybe doing teacher training. Sometimes the studios will have a monthly teacher training in service. So that's something that you could write in as well. Or monthly or semi-monthly activities, like maybe there's a dance every 2 weeks or a local dance party every month, right? You also want to write in your online trainings like I did there. So the coaching calls that we have for our online training program. And cross training or fitness or physio. And if you do a routine, write in your routine practices. Now, you can expect that to change from week to week and month to month. That it will definitely have a seasonal fluctuation. But right now, let's do just this month. Now, the reason why we want you to include things like the online training programs is so that you can take into account how much they value they add to your growth. Like these are all activities that are contributing to your dance joy. And if we were in the middle of a boot camp right now, a swing literacy boot camp, I would definitely add that, because the value that you get from boot camp will exponentially exceed the same dollar value in private lessons. So that's why we want you to consider it as a part of your balanced West Coast swing diet, because the return on your investment is equal, if not more, than private lessons. So then you want to be that we're using this weekly schedule to kind of estimate how much energy and how much money you're investing into each of these things. Okay. All right. Now, at this point, we're going to be auditing your West Coast swing diet. So hopefully you've had a chance to kind of fill in most of your month there. And it's okay if you're going to keep going, but we're going to talk about us reassessing it now. So I'm going to be asking you some questions about your schedule that you've just written down. So first of all, as you look at your own weekly schedule, I'd like you to ask yourself, are you getting the value or joy out of it that you're looking for? How balanced does it look? Oh, Ben's asking, I got distracted. What was the online, was that the online challenges are higher return of investment than private lessons? Oh, the challenges sometimes, but I was talking about the boot camp and momentum, our online training programs. Yeah, the challenges are just free 7-day sample. A lot of people get a lot out of that, but that's just a fingernail scratching the surface of the programs. So that's what I'm talking about, is a higher value for investment compared to the investment in private lessons. Yes. So going back to the questions, is it working for you? And only you can answer this question. I don't have the answer for you. Is it balanced? Do you feel drained by the activities? By some activities? Which ones? What I recommend you do is like bold them or color code them somehow so that you can think about these later. Are you getting the value or joy out of it that you're looking for? I'm not saying it's devoid of value or joy. It's just possible that you're not getting as much as you were looking for. So for example, I was coaching this one student online a couple of years ago who was they were in a more remote area, and so the dancing was more spread out. They had to drive over an hour to get to their weekly class and dance party, and then over an hour to get home. And what they were experiencing was that they were so burnt out that their dancing was suffering, their motivation was suffering. their work life was suffering because they were so fatigued. But I asked them, well, how many other dance parties do you have access to? And they said, oh, 3 or 4 a week. I'm like, well, do you really need to attend the one that's over an hour away where you spend over 2 hours commuting and end up getting burnt out? Or is that just taking away energy and joy from your dance? Is it really adding value or not? Now, I'm not suggesting that you don't patronize a dance party. It's just that if you already have other things to balance out your dance life, do you really need that last one that's taking more energy than the others? Yeah. And everyone has a different experience of it. So I can't tell you what's right for you. I'm just guiding you with these questions. So what might be draining you? Is it the commute? Is it that you're volunteering too much? Is it that you're not feeling appreciated by the volunteering that you're doing? Is there too much quantity of your experiences, but not enough quality? Maybe you're just taking 6 classes a week, but no private lessons. Are you not getting enough feedback to make the learning enriched? Maybe you're just going for the sake of going and not actually retaining a lot of the material that you're doing. Okay, so now looking at your week, do you need to reallocate more time or money to activities that bring you more joy or value and create better results? And this is the main thing that we've had swing literacy students tell us, is that when they reassess the value and joy that they got out of all of their dance activities, they realized which ones to reconsider. And that gave them more room in their budget to pursue other things that gave them more joy or value. The ones that I've spoken to have specifically referenced that since they invested in the swing literacy programs, they found that was like the higher return on investment. That's where I got that data from. So the question is, can you drop 1 class per week and instead allocate that savings to a private lesson, for example? Or would you get more value out of taking 1 less private lesson per month and reallocating that instead to an online training program? Or events. We're going to talk about that next. So I'm just giving you a moment to review some of your week and highlight some of the things that are to be considered with some reflection later. Consider replacing. All right. Sarah says, I can attest that swing literacy programs are way more valuable per dollar than private lessons. Thank you, Sarah. All right. Let's go into events. Okay. Now, not right now, but sometime this week, you can take more time to do some logistical accounting, okay? But for right now, let's talk strategy. I want you to consider how much you actually spend on events and assess the return on investment of events specifically. Now, for this, I'm actually going to be sharing with you a different template. And there we go. I'm popping it in the chat and I will share it on the screen as well. There it is. Okay, so first of all, this one has 3 tabs here: trip plans, expenses, and packing list. Like that, okay? So this particular one here is kind of obvious to look at. Remember, you're gonna make a copy of this and so that you can edit your own. So go ahead and make a copy now. You don't have to do anything on this particular one right now. I'm just gonna be walking you through it for when you do your own accounting appointment with yourself. Okay, so here you would write down the events that you have chosen from your workbook. So your high priority events that were here, okay? or the ones that you've decided that you want to go to, that's what you're going to be plugging in to this spreadsheet. Okay. And this just helps you keep track of your accommodation, like basically a to-do list. It's a to-do checklist to keep you organized, right? Now notice that I've got things like Strictly Partners, which a lot of people tend to forget, myself included, okay? And private lessons. And sometimes private lessons can be challenging because it takes some back and forth with the teacher. And not all teachers are great at responding to messages because their life is such a whirlwind. So that's why it's important to keep track of that and also make sure that you're noticing which dance dummy, dance partner you're going to bring and what kind of payment that they need so you can be prepared in advance. Now, let's move on to the expenses one. This is a simple accounting spreadsheet where I've just got an example event here looking at, I just called it swingy, swingy thingy. And then I'm estimating the cost of each of those, the typical access points. So let's say you spend $200 in the past, $75 on an intensive, and $60 on contests. It's going to fluctuate. Okay, this is just an estimate. Then so that the total of all these three things would be $335 just for the event itself. Then if you spend $400 on a flight, that would be on the low side of average for me. But of course, depending on where you are in the world and where you're flying and whether or not you're taking a flight or train, that will change. I'm estimating $100 on food. Of course, that's going to fluctuate. All depends on who you're traveling with and how you're sharing and what kind of budget you have for your food. And then if you're sharing a room, you might spend $250 on hotel. Of course, this is going to change with currency rates as well. Let's say you take an Uber from the airport and it's $35. And then let's say you spend $150 on a private lesson. So your weekend total would be this. And then it's time to actually consider the approximate personal value of what you got out of the event. Now, this is completely subjective. It's not empirical at all. And so you have to kind of just ballpark estimate how, like, I enjoyed the event, but how much compared to other events that I go to or I've been to did I get out of this one? And let's be really honest with yourself because no one's ever going to see this spreadsheet. So it's possible that you have some events that are like, oh, I will never miss this one again. It was amazing, 90%. And then some events you're like, you know what? I could probably live without it, and that's okay. And it might be below 50%. That's up to you. You can use your own scale. But it's important because you're going to be comparing that to the other events in your list. And then you might want to note down exactly why. Like what made it not just kind of like not so great, or what made it amazing, so you can have an accurate reflection on it in order for your decision making. Okay, so it's possible that with an event of 65% score of your own personal value, yeah, you might not prioritize it next year. You might go back into your bucket list and choose a different event to take its place for the next year. But that doesn't mean that you're discounting it for the future. You might just decide for this year. Now, after you've inputted all of those events, you'll be able to see an entire total at the bottom here, so you can see the big scary number of how much you actually spend on events in a year, right? Okay, so there we go. And then you can see the total of all the events will be averaged at the bottom. Then you have a better idea of what you can be spending or what you typically are spending during an event. And it might give you some insight into where you've been overspending. Maybe you haven't been planning far enough in advance to take advantage of an early bird registration price. Or maybe you've been showing up to the event and signing up for your contests at the event, and you're not taking advantage of the online pricing that happened till the day before. Or maybe you're realizing I got to get more roommates and lower my hotel costs. Or again, meal planning. There you go for for events that you can not fly to so that you can save money on food. Or maybe you need to do more volunteering. This budgeting will help you make decisions. That's the point. Okay, again, this isn't something that you're going to be making decisions on just now. Oh, Oscar's saying $1,500 spent last year. Well, on one event, yeah, that's it's possible. It depends on the event and where you're going. There's lots of fluctuation. Okay. Now, I want you to actually think about the money that was spent on each of these events. And remember, and the 65%, right? Consider that was the let's say you spent 1270 on this particular event. Was this like now? I want you to do that value evaluation on its own. But after you've done that, I want you to ask yourself this question. Was that more valuable to you than $1,200 worth of some other experience? So for example, maybe you can get 10 private lessons for that price. Was that 4-day event more valuable than 10 hours of private lessons? Oh, that's a hard one. Oh, yeah. Right? Or is that more valuable than the Swing Literacy Dancer Development Program and Boot Camp, which is 50 hours of online multimedia course plus 16 hours of live Zoom coaching? 16. So when you put it in contrast to 4 days of party, a couple of workshops, maybe a private lesson and intensive, right? And social dancing. Oh, and competing. Is it worth it? And I know many of you competitors are going like, well, it depends on if I got points. I know you were thinking it. Yeah, but you can't guarantee points, right? So you can't make predictions or decisions based on if you will get points. It's the same thing with prize money. When you get prize money from contests, never put that into your budget. Prize money is bonus. Never count on it as though it's an assumption because you can't guarantee it. Yeah. If you're a traveling professional, working professional, this is something that you want to see as bonus money, not guaranteed. So that's the hard question is of that 1275, if it was only 65% value, could I have spent that money better elsewhere? Would I have gotten more value for my money choosing something else? Okay. Next question. Do you have room in your budget? After you've looked at all of this list of your events, of all the events that you will typically go to or you're going to go to this year, okay, of your high priority events, then decide, do you have any more room in your budget? Now, it's easier to consider other events from your list of lower priority events, right? But first, think about other investments in your dance that you've been saving for or know that it'll be worth it. I'll give you a great example, teacher training, right? So before you consider adding more events from the lower priority list to your budget, have you remembered that you had intended on investing in other things last year? Teacher training is a great example. Swing Literacy Dancer Development Program, great example. I can't tell you how many people have said like, oh, I really want to do that, but I don't have any money now, but I will next year. And then guess what happens? Next year happens and you forget. I meant to save money for that. Right? Here's another one. Hosting a workshop weekend. I know this is something that might not be for everyone, but hosting a workshop weekend is actually more accessible than you think. You don't need to rely on the local event promoters who are already existing in order to do that. It's something that, depending on the size of it, you could easily take on. I mean, every event promoter has got to start somewhere. So, and especially with smaller communities who are maybe just, they've never done one before, or haven't done very many of them, I've actually created, of course, an article for this as well. Here you go. How to organize a win-win-win West Coast Swing workshop. So if this might be something that you want to take your spare budget to work toward, of course, the idea is to make it pay for itself, but initially someone's going to have to put out the funds for it. And so this article, which also comes with a separate workbook, there it is. There you go. Helps you organize it with more efficiency and staying in budget. Nice. Sarah says, but why can't the $1,000 just magically appear for your dream event next year? Right? Oh, okay. Now let's look at the lower priority events. Okay. First, how are you going to find those? Well, Henrik has a great suggestion here. After events, I make sure to take care of all the recap clips, analyzing, documenting, and creating plans for training the material. Much better return on investment. Awesome. That's a great start. The thing is, the material that you get from events is not tailored to you or organized in any way. So as effective as that is for organizing the content that you have learned, it's not necessarily a good prescription for you. That's the limit. See, everything we're learning in West Coast Swing is by nature Frankensteining your dance together. It's just an assortment of different things that are not in any order. They're not in any progression. And they're not necessarily things that you need to prioritize or worry about that apply to you. So that's where Swing Literacy picks up the slack, fills in the gaps. That's why I'm referencing it so much, because I wanted to show you where it fits into your West Coast Swing diet. Oscar says, thanks, I want to be an event coordinator one day. Fantastic. Thank you, Oscar, for contributing that. Now let's looking at those lower priority events. Well, first of all, you can check the World Swing Dance Council website, but remember, those are only listing events that offer competitions, right? Don't forget the non-competitive events as well, that are like offer nothing but workshops and social dancing. I've heard amazing feedback about some great events, and I have always been a supporter of the learning environment, the group learning environment, and the celebration of the culture of the dance, rather than leaning into the requirement and the pressure of having to compete. Don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of competitions too, but it's possible that it's so easy to get dragged down by obsession, perfectionism, points chasing, and having the points mean something to your self-worth, that you really need to temper that, to balance it out with pursuing the joy of the dance. Yeah, it's all about balance. All right. Sarah says, Swing a Soda is my biggest priority event every year. I highly recommend it. Nice. That's a great workshop weekend event. Oh, not workshop weekend event, non-competitive event. Nice. And then Sandra's got a website there of list of dance weekenders as well. Ah, yes. And she's saying, don't forget to encourage event directors who organize social weekends to post on there too. Exactly. Nice. Yeah, go ahead and type in the chat your recommendations for some of those non-competitive events that you love. I know Yosemite Swing was a big one. I was involved in one called Sweet Side of Swing years ago, which was fantastic and really set the tone for leveled workshops. It was the first event in North America to offer leveled workshops with no competitions, which is fantastic. All right. Now, it's possible that some of those might become your highest priority events, like Sarah said, right? Now, here's the thing. What I want you to do in your calendar right now is start with one per season. Now, in Northern Hemisphere, we have 4 seasons. So start with one per quarter. And then if you have room in your budget, then start with adding 1 per month up to your capacity. Everyone's going to have a different capacity. You might not want to go to more than 4 weekends a year, and that's totally fine. And then when you start to see your schedule start to forming, you might notice that you have things in your schedule that are kind of compacted together. And I want you to make some decisions about this. Here, well, let me show you what I mean. It's possible that, like, while we're on the East Coast at Canadian Swing Championships, I might want to go to, this is what we used to do all the time, is on the NASD circuit, there was USA Grand Nationals in Atlanta. And so I would put that here, and then I would combine this trip into one and try to find a place to stay in between. Usually I end up visiting family in Ottawa, so that's what worked for me. But you might want to consider doing two events back to back. I know for a fact that a lot of the Asian events do this so that they can combine the two events back to back, so to attract more people traveling from out of country, to make it a vacation trip or a bucket list destination, a combination of events, which is great. Now, combining the events there. Right, also to save money, or it depends on your, your work schedule as well. Okay. Now, it's also possible that when you fill in your calendar here, you recognize, oh my God, I'm going to like 3 events a month. This has typically been something I've coached students on. They've been going to events only because they exist, not because they're making conscious choices. Yeah. And what ends up happening is they get overwhelmed. They get burnt out. They lose their joy. Their work might suffer, right? So this it will help you kind of balance things out, and you might have to make some decisions about, okay, which event is giving me the best ROI, the best perceived value from my budget spreadsheet. So which one do I really want to? And which will be more valuable, going to an event or taking a break so that my next event can be enjoyed more? It's all about balancing and negotiating your own joy. Yeah. So I want you to use your wisdom that you've gained from last year to inform this year to make conscious choices. Now, it's possible that you're like, yeah, no problem. I can handle 3 weeks in a row. And then I can always take 6 weeks off. No problem. That's what I just did. I just did 6 weeks in a row of traveling, New York, Australia, and then Austria. And then now I have a nice downtime to get it back into some routine, recapture some positive habits, and get some work done. So that's how I find my balance. So it's up to you. All right, here we go. We're wrapping up this workshop with actually making your bookings, right? So what you're going to do with that event planning spreadsheet is start with your top priority events from section 1. You're going to decide, or section 2 actually, decide on your budget for each event and allow for fluctuations. Include each event's registration open date. Purchase your tickets as early as possible so you can take advantage of the discounts. And then sometimes you need to book your hotel room so that you can be guaranteed a room. Then mark in your calendar when you need to purchase travel by, so that you don't miss out on a window. Maybe that involves like setting up your flight seeking app to make sure that you get the best deals. Then, of course, you're going to invite your Strictly Swing partners and request your private lessons from the pros. Next, you're going to be investigating and save money for new regular editions. Now you're going to add these to your action items right now. Are you ready? Research cross-training programs at new studios. Maybe there's like a hip hop dance that you've been wanting to try. Pole dancing. Or salsa, just for something refreshing. Then inquire about personal training or physiotherapy. Write that down. If you have been neglecting something like your fitness or your injuries, this is the time of year to make that a priority. Okay. Next, reach out to friends to join a group practica or start one with that article I'm going to send you in the follow-up email. Okay. And you could apply for a strategy session. Now, what do I mean by that? So what I do on a regular basis is do an accelerate your dance strategy session for dancers who are looking for a little bit of a roadmap of what would make the biggest difference in their dance, what they should be prioritizing, and where they should go from here. You can actually look that up. All right, you can actually set that up with me in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to send you a link for it. It's 45 minutes via Zoom, and we can design some priorities for you. Now, next, you're going to be booking more events if and as your budget allows. And what that means, that might mean, is being an organizer. So in other words, reaching out to pros to inquire about their workshop availability, just to get the ball rolling, just to see what's out there, to see what's possible. And right now, what I'd like you to do is schedule yourself a planning session once a month. Not the accounting session I told you to do this week, but once a month, you're going to review all of that spreadsheet where you're planning your Strictly partners and you're booking your hotels. Schedule yourself a check-in date once a month, right now in your calendar. Make a recurring appointment on a certain day of the month to review your event planning spreadsheet so that you can look ahead 12 months, 6 months, because you can't just do it at the beginning of the year, right? Got to do it throughout the year because there's new events that pop up or things change or there's registration deadlines that you want to take advantage of. Okay. And if it appealed to you, start your dance journal. Okay. So your action items are going to be all in your workbook. Now tell me what you guys are thinking right now. I'm really curious. How are you feeling about your 2026 year now? Are you feeling like you're excited about making decisions? Or is it feeling overwhelming? Are you feeling guilty for how much money you've been spending? Are you feeling encouraged to be able to, I don't know about you, but I like having action items and tasks. I feel like I have more direction and I have more clarity about what I need and what I want. Yeah. How are you feeling? The reason that I wanted to do this workshop in the first place was because I was already doing this for my year. And I'm like, why don't I just include everybody in what I'm already doing? Nice. Jennifer says, guilty and encouraged. Paul says, so much I want to do, so little time. Yeah, but keep in mind, and some people need to hear this, this is a hobby. You want to make sure that you keep it balanced in your life so that you continue to enjoy your hobby and don't feel burdened by it. Don't feel overwhelmed by it. Yeah. Christina says, I'm feeling overwhelmed and wondering how I can possibly get as much dance as I want while still having other priorities in my life. Yeah. Well, consider this. You might not need as much to pack as much into your schedule in order to be happy. Your happiness might come from more quality, not necessarily quantity. There's going to be a threshold where more quantity is going to be taking away from the quality. Genevieve says, I feel unbalanced and guilty. I think it won't change. At least this framework will help me assess and accept. Nice. Yeah, just to give you a clearer picture of what's actually happening in your life so you can make better decisions about what you want to change and how you want your year to look. Yeah. Elise says, I feel much better and like I'm already in line with what I want to do in 2026. Awesome. Sarah says, it's a great reminder to think about the fun ROI and be intentional about that. It makes it easier to make decisions, even the smaller ones, like which, if any, comps to sign up for. Yes, nice. Like in an event, will signing up for all of the comps I qualify for bring me more joy or just exhaust me to the point where I won't enjoy social dancing? You have to make that decision for yourself. Pat says, feeling excited and encouraged. Nice. Ben says, it's also hard to resist when you're just starting in a small locality with very few events around. Oh, I get you. I totally understand. Vancouver's already pretty isolated in North America. And then you add on to that, there weren't that many events around when I first started. I had to fly to every single event except for Seattle Easter Swing, which was 3 hours drive. So I know exactly where you're coming from. Amy says, thank you. This will definitely help to make good proactive decisions rather than panic booking and overspending and then turning up to an event already burnt out. Exactly. Yes. It's amazing how much more you can enjoy an event when you're not already burnt out from the previous event. Trust me, after 23 years of doing 30 plus, 35 plus events a year, maybe not every single year, but I know. But I get paid for it. Some of you go back to your regular jobs and have to be, productive and effective at your regular jobs before going and partying for 4 days. I don't know how you do it. All right. So I'm going to be sending you the recording of this session. Tomorrow, I look forward to seeing all the Swing Literacy alumni in your exclusive coaching call called Regain Your Momentum, so that you can take advantage of the ultimate practice blueprint that you have access to in Momentum and Swing Literacy. Let's see. Stephanie says, I just started West Coast Swing last year and was signing up for events and intensives and comps based on what other people were saying. I love this structure for getting me to reflect on what was working well for me, not just relying on the hype. Now, keep in mind, hype is important. It does mean something, but that doesn't mean you have to take action on everything. You still have to filter for yourself on what is in your capacity, budget-wise and time-wise and energy-wise. Yes. Thanks for that contribution, Stephanie. All right. So thank you for joining me today. I'm so glad that you got some value out of today. I'm going to be sending you the recording to this later today. And then I wish you luck in having your accounting appointment with yourself so that you can plan your year. I would love it if you could follow up and tell me how it's going. That might look like a comment on the Facebook event page or DM me on Instagram at Swing Literacy. I hope you guys are following that for more free opportunities like this, and also just information and tutorials that we provide all the time on there. So make sure you give me a follow there. And otherwise, enjoy all the resources I'm going to be sending to you in the show notes in the follow-up email. All right. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to let you go. Happy New Year, and I'll see alumni tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.